The movie begins in the quiet hum of a suburban evening, a couple tangled in passion, breathless and reckless, caught between desire and danger. Their laughter fills the room until the moment shatters. A little boy appears in the doorway, holding a dead mouse like a trophy. His innocent smile freezes his mother mid-scream. The man, startled, gets up, frustration mixing with forced calm, and goes to deal with the boy. The scene shifts to the marina. Laura, a gentle soul with a restless heart, wants to renovate their kitchen. But Greg, her husband, a man tethered to control, brushes off the idea. Their son, Jamie, clumsily fumbles with a knife. Laura softly warns him to be careful. Greg's phone rings, and he walks away. Work always calls louder than love. And as Laura rearranges supplies on her cart, a man watches her from afar, with calm eyes and faint smile. A box from her cart slips, but the stranger catches it. Time freezes for a heartbeat. A brief, charged silence between two strangers destined to collide. He walks away without a word. Moments later, Greg returns with a newspaper. The headline screams, "Arson on Denton Island," a story that will soon weave itself into their lives. As they talk, tragedy strikes. Jamie slips off the deck, splashing into the cold water. The stranger dives without hesitation, pulling the boy to safety. He introduces himself, Elliot, grateful. They invite him to dinner. Laura, dressed simply but radiant, can't help but notice his composure, his charm carved with quiet mystery. She stands aside with her best friend, Myra, speaking in whispers about the man who saved her son, and how dangerously handsome he is. Inside, Elliot admires Laura's painting. She confesses she used to sell her art, until Greg turned her studio into a shed. Meanwhile, Greg is elsewhere, flirting over the phone with his assistant. Elliot offers to work on the kitchen, on family rates. Greg agrees without hesitation. The next morning, as Laura jogs with Myra, Myra jokes about how dreamy Elliot is, how lucky Laura is to have him working so close. Laura laughs it off, but there's a spark behind that laugh. Back home, Laura catches sight of Elliot again, shirtless in the yard, skin glistening with sweat. She approaches, pretending to inspect the work, but her eyes betray her, tracing every curve of him. Her breath falters. She retreats, running inside to drown her desires under the shower's hiss. As she steps in, water cascading over her skin, Elliot passes silently by her door. Later, at the supermarket, as Laura browses through kitchen shades, Elliot appears behind her like a whisper. He praises her taste, his tone smooth, almost poetic. Then, he makes her close her eyes, guides her hand to a glass of fresh juice, then to a small pastry, a cannoli, from Laodicea, a special place in town his mother used to take him. There's something intimate about the moment, too intimate for strangers. Back home, Myra drops by. She finds Elliot once again shirtless, hammer in hand, and can't help but stare. She teasingly asks him about his girlfriends, his love life. Elliot smiles, charming yet cryptic. He tells her he has no girlfriend, but he has eyes on someone. Myra goes quiet. Later, Laura accompanies Elliot to the boatyard. They head to Greg's boat, checking if anyone tried to break in. Inside, Laura finds a secret: purple panties. Her hands tremble. Tears well up as realization crashes in. She suspects Hannah, Greg's assistant, and when she checks Hannah's dating profile, she sees the same lace and color. Her suspicion is confirmed. Elliot finds her crying and gently leads her away with a soft and persuasive voice. He tells her she deserves better, that it's time to move on. Laura listens, vulnerable and broken. When she leaves, Elliot breaks down, tears sliding down his face as he stares at photos of his mother. Grief, obsession, and something darker mingle in the silence. Back home, Laura confronts Greg. She asks him where he was last night. He lies, says he was at work. With Hannah taking notes, Laura's suspicions harden. When Greg reaches out to touch her, she turns away, disgust replacing affection. The next morning, Elliot is back, His warmth with Jamie only deepens Laura's admiration. He's everything Greg isn't. Attentive, kind, alive. When Jamie leaves to play with Myra's son, Laura heads upstairs for a shower, and as steam fills the room, Elliot enters quietly, breath heavy, his desire no longer restrained. Their eyes meet, and in that charged silence, reason fades, Laura gives in, and passion takes over. Later at the marina, Laura watches couples embrace. She approaches Greg, guilt burning beneath her calm voice. He greets her warmly, speaking about teenagers sneaking onto boats. Brushing off the underwear mystery, Laura stands frozen, shame crashing over her like waves against the hull. Greg confesses his undying love for her, and she, silent and haunted, lets him. Later, as Elliot plays with Jamie in the yard, Laura and Myra arrive, laughter masking anxiety. Laura pulls Elliot aside. Her voice trembling but firm, tells him they have to stop, but Elliot, lost in obsession, only steps closer, his eyes dark with desire. Laura tries to defend her marriage, her loyalty, but temptation wins again. Elliot's words drown her resistance, and soon she surrenders, caught between sorrow and desire. Later that night, Elliot sits alone in his boat. His hands tremble as he takes Laura's photos and, with surgical madness, cuts Greg's face from each one. He replaces it with his own. The next day, Elliot arrives smiling softly, hands Laura her favorite yellow roses for her birthday. Laura freezes, unsettled by how much he knows about her. Just then, Greg appears. He notices the roses, surprised, remarking how perfectly they suit Laura's taste. Laura forces a nervous smile while Elliot stares at her with that haunting devotion. Once Greg leaves, Laura storms inside, her calm snapping like glass. She lashes out at Elliot, accusing him of going too far. Tearfully, she admits her mistake. She misjudged Greg, and she cannot continue whatever they have started. Elliot stands there, devastated, trembling with grief as she demands he leave her house and never return. The rejection crushes him, and his obsession begins to crack into madness. Later, Laura returns home, trying to reassure herself that Elliot is gone. But through the quiet curtain, his shadow lingers, watching. That evening, Laura dresses up in front of the mirror. Myra arrives, and together they step out onto the porch, only to be met with a chorus of voices. Friends and family burst into cheers. A surprise birthday party. Greg smiles proudly among them, grateful and flustered. Laura thanks everyone, leaning into Greg for a kiss. Elliot stands at the edge of the crowd, his expression dark, watching what he believes is his love being stolen. Hannah, Greg's flirtatious assistant, arrives and tells Laura how hard Greg worked to plan this whole surprise. Laura smiles faintly, her emotions tangled between guilt and gratitude. Soon, Greg introduces Elliot to Hannah, and sparks of unwanted attraction flicker in her eyes. But Elliot's gaze never leaves Laura. His eyes track her every movement, his mind spiraling further into obsession. Later, Hannah follows Elliot outside, teasingly inviting herself along. Laura, meanwhile, lies in bed beside Greg, trying to confess her affair, but Greg silences her with tenderness, kissing away her words before they can reach the light. Out on the dock, Hannah follows Elliot to his boat. She flirts, eager and bold, pressing herself against him, but he remains cold, disinterested. When she realizes he isn't aroused, frustration overtakes her. She turns to leave, then freezes. She sees photos of Laura plastered on the cabin wall. Realization dawns. She calls him insane, and that single word snaps something inside him. In a violent burst, Elliot strangles her. Silence falls heavy over the boatyard. The next morning, Greg embraces Laura, whispering promises of a peaceful getaway once his sailing trip is over. They kiss tenderly, watched from afar by Elliot, his jealousy burning like fire. When Greg leaves, Laura heads to the shed, only to stop dead at the sight before her. Her art studio has been transformed into a shrine. Paintings, sketches, and words scrawled across the walls. Terror grips her, and then Jamie's scream shatters the air. Laura races back inside to find her son on the floor, shaken and breathless. Between gasps, Jamie tells her Elliot was here. Laura runs outside and confronts him. Her voice trembles as she begs him to leave her family alone. But Elliot's eyes blaze with delusion. He mutters that she belongs to him, that she and Greg are finished, that fate has already bound them together. He grips her arms and tries to force her submission. Laura screams and struggles until Jamie appears, shouting for him to stop. Elliot finally releases her and storms off. That evening, shaken and desperate, Laura scrolls through reviews of Elliot's work. Among the praises, one chilling review catches her eye. From a user named Purple Wallflower. "He destroyed my life." Laura drives to Denton Island the next morning and tracks down a shop mentioned in the review. The owner directs her to a woman named Willie Hamill. At Willie's home, Laura pleads for answers. The woman hesitates, trembling. Finally, she confesses that Elliot ruined her life, her marriage. Her voice cracks as she warns Laura. He's not just obsessed, he's dangerous. That she should see what he did to his own mother. And with that, Willie shuts the door, leaving Laura outside, pale and trembling, realizing too late the monster she has invited into her home. At dawn, a young lady's necklace slips through her grasp. As she peers down for it, Hannah's lifeless body rises from the deep, floating upward like a ghostly confession. The girl screams, and chaos erupts across the marina. News of Hannah's death flashes across television screens. Myra and Bill sit frozen, horror tightening their throats. They rush to call Greg, but before he can answer, Elliot looms behind him. Meanwhile, the sudden commotion jolts Laura awake. Her instincts prickle. She grabs a baseball bat and nervously creeps downstairs. She hears a faint sound of glass breaking. In the living room, she spots a plate of cannoli left out, a haunting reminder of Elliot's twisted affection. Beneath it, the window frame lies shattered. A cold wind slithers through. Outside, Elliot drifts away from the house, eyes hollow, his pain curdling into madness. Later, Greg awakens in the boat, bound to a pole. Panic flashes through him as he struggles free, only to be ambushed. Elliot overpowers him, beating him down until his body collapses onto the deck. Elsewhere, Laura confides in Myra, voice trembling with guilt and fear. She reveals everything: her affair with Elliot, his obsessive behavior, his threats. Myra stares in disbelief, her voice sharp with worry. Later, Laura visits Laodicea Bakery. The warm scent of pastries greets her as she orders tea and a cupcake. Behind the counter, an elderly woman smiles kindly, recognizing Elliot's name. She gestures toward a wall of memories filled with photos of loyal customers. She tells Laura that Elliot came there often as a child with his mother, a troubled woman with unfaithful husbands and a broken heart. Elliot, she says, never had a stable home, and tragedy struck when their house burned down. The story drains the color from Laura's face. As she turns to leave, the old woman adds that Elliot came by this morning, said he's going to marry a widow and become a stepdad. Panic surges through Laura as she races home. The door creaks open, and there stands Elliot, smiling as though nothing is wrong. "Where's Greg?" she gasps. His expression twists into something monstrous. The tenderness vanishes. He lunges, his voice rising with madness as he drags her up the stairs. Laura fights back, but he ties her to the bed, ranting about love and destiny. Thinking quickly, Laura softens her tone. She tells him she's realized how much she loves him too. The words calm him. Delusion glimmers in his eyes. Slowly, he unties her. She coaxes him downstairs for dinner. There, Jamie sits tied to a chair, frightened but unharmed. Laura hides her terror behind a mother's composure, urging Jamie to eat and play along. At that moment, Myra and Bill pull up outside. Laura tries to signal for help. Elliot notices, and rage erupts. He forces them upstairs, then sends Jamie outside. He wants a moment alone with Laura. He pushes her onto the bed, his hands trembling, his breath erratic. But before he can continue, Jamie bursts back in. For a split second, Elliot freezes. The image triggers a flashback. His own mother, lying on a bed. A man looming above her. The memory splinters his mind. Laura seizes the moment and strikes him and bolts for the stairs. Elliot stumbles after her. He catches her in the living room. The two struggle violently. Elliot hurls her across the floor and swings a hammer, striking her head. The world goes dark. Night descends. Elliot drags Laura's limp body in a sack to his boat. Unbeknown to him, Laura is not dead. She slices through the fabric and breaks free. A brutal fight ensues under the pale glow of the dock lights. Laura plunges a knife into his stomach and sprints away, following the trail of blood. She discovers Greg inside another boat, alive but unconscious. She tries to radio the Coast Guard, but the lines are dead. Elliot rises again and comes at her. Laura strikes him once more and flees. The chase tears through the boat, up the narrow stairs, into the cabin above. Elliot catches her and tries to strangle her, but with one last surge of strength, Laura smashes him back and sends him crashing through the window. His body slams against the deck below, motionless. Days later, peace settles over the family, laughter echoing through the once haunted home. Laura opens the fridge and finds a familiar sight, a single cannoli. Greg smiles. "Thought you might like it." Laura exhales, a bittersweet smile forming on her lips. In the end, Laura's paranoid almost cost her everything. What do you think of her behavior? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you were captivated by the story, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite thrillers.